Hello and welcome to Coffee with Dr. Carla. I'm Dr. Carla. This is Christine. We are both so happy to have you here with us today. Our goal today is to talk about some mental health related issues and hopefully start to break down the stigma surrounding them. So today we're going to talk about becoming a new parent.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I remember when I had my daughter, and then, you know, I remember when my daughter went through each of hers, and we've got another one on the way. So, you know, doesn't matter how many times you've had kids, like adding another one to the brood or becoming a parent for the first time is overwhelming.
It's totally overwhelming. And I think people underestimate that, or we get a little, I don't know about other people, but for myself, I felt like there's a lot of pressure to just feel all the happy things. And that's not always how it goes. You can be very happy and also very overwhelmed. And even you can just be very overwhelmed sometimes. It's a lot.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it seems that um, women and the roles that they're supposed to play, at least according to society,
Hmm.
um, are conflicting
Yeah.
at best.
Yeah.
At best. So, of course, you want to have many children and stay at home and be barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen, right? And then when you go away to work, oh, you're such a horrible mom. Hurting your child. And then if
Right.
you stay home, what? You're not contributing to the finances of the household?
Or socializing your child
Right. So
or
like wait, what am I supposed to be doing? Like I should work, I shouldn't work, I should be at home, I should be at home,
yeah,
right? And it doesn't matter what you do, there's going to be a group of people who will put some,
you're wrong all the time.
yeah, you don't really have a chance in hell.
I think that's
Yeah.
the
And
biggest.
that's not even like that's fighting with the outside forces when you have
Hmm.
a child. That's not even like the reality of the fact that kids wake up every couple hours when they're first
Right.
born and you
You're
don't get
sleep
to sleep and
deprived.
you can't remember if you showered and you show up places with, throw up on your
Right.
back and you don't even know it because you're so used to the smell of vomit. I'm like,
Right. And for women, if you have given birth to a child, if it's not an adoption situation or something, that your hormones are really thrown off at the very beginning and for a long time after that, a time frame that like people don't talk about, where your body is adjusting to things. But mentally you're also just really adjusting to a lot because it's what you hit on. It's a new role and it's evaluating things. Like you're no longer just this one person responsible for you, or depending on your views of relationships and what your relationship status is, you and your partner. This is a family and a human that you're responsible for helping guide into the world. That's just totally overwhelming.
right.
The nicest thing someone said to me at the very beginning, my daughter is like almost 2 now, but at the very beginning, someone looked at me and they were like, "You do need to remind yourself that sleep deprivation is a form of torture." Right? They said this is something used to torture people, to get information, and you're going through this every day for a few months here. So give yourself that grace. It's okay for you to be exhausted, emotional, tired, both of you, both parents. Now, this isn't just hormones. This is a
Right.
really big thing you're going through, in addition to evaluating the role that you have in the world as a parent now, in your relationship, as a parent with someone else in your family. Like there's
Right.
just so much going on. It feels like an overwhelming amount to juggle.
I mean, it's something simple as um PTO or, like
Hmm.
a sick day, depending on like what industry you're in, right?
Right.
And you're like, oh, I've got a sore throat. I don't really feel good. I'm going to stay home and not get everybody ill. Whereas once you have kids, it's, you know, you're suddenly thinking, well, I have a sore throat. I need to go to work because I'm sure my kid's going to get sick and I'm going to have to take a day off. So now you're
Right.
pushing yourself there. And then you're trying to justify like why you would stay home. My kid's got a fever.
Right.
I got to stay home. Someone needs to care for them, right?
Right.
And so I think we start to burn the candle then at both ends, unfortunately.
Well, and then, life has also changed. So you're balancing that while also figuring out how to be sick and take care of a small being who is also sick. No one
Yeah.
talks about that. You
No.
know, like you feel like garbage. You no longer just get to curl up under a blanket and sleep when you need. Somebody else at you, and you need to take care of them too, or find help to do that, right?
Well, and that finding help is an interesting thing because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, I mean, I was very fortunate. If I was sick, my mother would step in and help me out. Um, it was usually at some cost, but nonetheless, it was, it allowed me to go into bed and die, until I came back out of my cocoon and felt better, right? You know, um, but sometimes there's all these negative messages being bombarded at new parents, and somebody might step in and say, "Look, I'll take the kid while you guys get rest." And instead of being like, "Oh my gosh, thank you very much," they're like, "So you think I'm a bad mom? You think I'm a bad
Mm,
dad? You think I'm just gonna lay around and let somebody else do my job?" And you're like, "No, I'm trying to give you this space." But there's so many negative messages bombarding parents
mm-hmm.
that they sometimes they don't know how to take advantage of that truly
Right.
innocent, gesture or
Yeah.
willingness to help,
And it's
right?
also tough because at the very beginning, that's those first few months, that's what you do get the offers for is let me come, I'll watch the baby. You guys can go and do this. But at those first few months, you don't really want to leave the baby either, right? You're
Right,
conflicted because a piece of you wants to go back and have your normal life that you're kind of grieving because you no longer have that ever again, right? Of being, just a person or a spouse without children. You now have children.
right.
But then a
There
piece
is
of
no
you,
simply
right,
going to the store. You have to
right.
pack up 9,000 things to get out the door,
But then
right?
another part of you is still in that bonding phase. You still do have those hormones, and you're like, but I don't, that's not the help that I need. And I think that's something that I can say is kind of helpful sometimes. What the advice that was given to me that I should have taken is asking for what you need from those people that are willing to help. So if someone says, "Hey, I can come and watch the baby so you can run out and do this," saying, "I really appreciate that, but why don't you bring over lunch so that we can sit and I can socialize with somebody but also be with the baby. Or maybe you could help me throw in the laundry because that's the part that's getting to be too much."
Right,
Um, but asking for those things because people don't know. And the offer that we always come up with is, let me come over and watch the baby, right? Really, the offer that's implied is, let me help you.
right, right. And right, and help might be simply come over and I can wash your dishes.
Right.
I wash your dishes and you're okay with the fact that I washed them.
Right.
Like it's not there's no hidden
It's not
implication
because
that
your
you're a
house is
bad
dirty,
person. Right,
right?
right. We eat and therefore dishes get dirty,
Right.
right? I mean, I guess unless you all you do is disposable, but at the end of the day, even that has something that has to be cleaned up,
Yeah.
right?
And I think that's part that also comes in is that judgment that we make on ourselves and that we think other people are making on us. It's not just about the house. Like you said, it's kind of the parenting thing too. And people give while pregnant and once you have a child, people give unsolicited advice and opinions all the time. And it's easy to feel like everything you're doing, other people think is wrong. And so,
When I had my kid,
right, right.
okay, great.
But
That's
honestly, information changes all the time, right? The things that my doctor has recommended for my daughter are so much different than the things that were recommended for my niece and nephew who are just 5 years older than her, right?
right,
Things change. And also, every kid is different. And I feel like you hear that, but it's really hard to soak that in. It's really easy to make the comparisons and do the keeping up with the Joneses, right?
oh,
This kid has
comparison is so
this
hard, yeah.
kid's doing this, but they all kind of get there in their own time, there's we had an issue with like sleeping in a swing, and I remember reading something about sleep crutches, and it had a line in there, and it was like, no kid has ever gone to college still sleeping in a rocker. I promise you'll make the transition. Don't give yourself that kind of
Right,
pressure. And it
right.
was the perspective that I personally needed,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
But that is so, yeah, okay, I'm gonna have to remember that one because that is so true, right? Like, we're like, oh my God, they're gonna always be.
Right. It has to be right here, and like, no,
Right.
it's okay.
Yeah, and that's when I often talk to parents, new parents especially, but even parents, period,
Hmm.
about the concept of being good enough.
Right.
Like, do you really need to have your baseboards clean?
No.
Can you just make sure that there's nothing sharp on the floor?
Right.
You know, what's good enough, right?
Hmm.
And it's hard to do sometimes,
Right.
especially if you are in a situation where you feel like you're constantly being judged.
Right.
So,
Right.
yes,
Being good enough for yourself, I think,
right. And for your
is
family,
that
right?
piece of things. Yeah.
Yeah, most definitely. So remember, you can change your thoughts, discover your potential, and transform your life by focusing on your overall well being. So until next time, keep on working on being the best you possible. Bye.